You've probably heard the name William Wallace, a giant of a man, a rebel, a warrior, and to many, a national hero of Scotland. But who was William Wallace really? Forget the face-painted Mel Gibson version for a second. Let's dive into the real story and find out for ourselves who the real Braveheart was. Wallace was born around 1270 in Elderslie, Renfrewshire, or maybe Ellerslie in Ayrshire. Nobody's quite sure. Back then, Scotland was a land torn between clans, kings, and the looming shadow of England. Wallace wasn't a king or a noble. He was part of the lesser nobility, educated, yes, and trained in the sword, but not exactly born to lead armies. What he was born with? A strong sense of freedom and a hatred for English rule. After the death of King Alexander III, Scotland was left without a clear heir. Not long after, King Edward forced Scottish nobles to swear loyalty and installed a puppet king, John Balliol. It was clear, England didn't want to help Scotland. It wanted to own it. And Wallace? He wanted none of it. After clashing with English soldiers and losing his wife, allegedly killed by them, Wallace snapped. He struck back, hard, taking revenge and killing the Sheriff of Lanark in 1297 and starting what would become a full-blown rebellion. After that show of defiance against the English, it would prove that Wallace wasn't alone. He teamed up with Andrew Moray, another rebel leader in the north. Together, they pulled together an army of farmers, blacksmiths, and angry Scots with pitchforks and fury in their veins. On the 11th of September 1297, they met the English at Stirling Bridge, and despite being outnumbered, Wallace outsmarted them, letting them cross the narrow bridge 2 by 2, and then striking. The English were crushed. "Stirling is ours," the Scots shouted. Victorious Wallace was declared Guardian of Scotland. He even led raids into northern England. A bold move, a message. Scotland was no longer playing defense. But victories never last forever. In 1298, Edward brought his full might to Falkirk. The Scots fought valiantly, forming tight schiltrons, massive circles of spearmen, but English longbows tore them apart. Wallace's army was defeated. He resigned as guardian and disappeared into the shadows. But he didn't surrender. For years, he continued the fight, slipping between villages, rallying support, striking at English posts. He became a ghost, a myth, a thorn in Edward's side. But in 1305, betrayal came from within. Wallace was captured near Glasgow by Sir John Menteith, a fellow Scot. He was handed over to the English and taken to London in chains. No one from Scotland came to save him, but Wallace held his head high. Captured and taken down to London, Wallace stood trial for treason and refused to plead. "I cannot be a traitor," he said, "for I owe Edward no allegiance. Scotland does not belong to England." His sentence was brutal: hanged, drawn, and quartered. His head placed on London Bridge. His limbs sent to Newcastle, Berwick, Stirling, and Perth. As a warning, but it didn't silence Scotland. It lit a fire. And just 9 years later, another warrior rose up, Robert the Bruce. And at the Battle of Bannockburn in 1314, Scotland struck a mighty blow against English rule. Wallace didn't live to see it, but it was his fight that started the flame. Today, Wallace is remembered not just in stone statues, street names, and Braveheart memes, but in the very soul of Scotland. He wasn't perfect. He was brutal when he had to be. But he stood for something bigger than himself. He stood for his country. So the next time you hear the name William Wallace, don't just picture war paint and big speeches. Picture a man who stood up when others stayed down. A man who bled for his country's right to be free, and in the end, gave everything for a land he loved. They may take his life, but they'll never take his freedom. If you managed to make it to the end of this video and enjoyed it, please like and subscribe so I can continue to bring you more content like this.